How often in life do we willingly challenge ourselves to see from different perspectives or different vantage points, sometimes simultaneously? It's one of the things that actually doing thread work like this, embroidery, hones or develops as a skill. As you're doing the work, one of the skills that's required is just being present to what you're doing. I'm not saying that you can't chat like I am right now, although when I'm not fully present to my work, I often get tangles or breakage of threads or strings. And I always laugh at that if I'm in the middle of doing something like this, like a video, because my mind is not fully here. So when we're doing thread work, especially if you're doing things like embroidery or using embroidery stitches to do the work that you're doing, one of the requirements is being able to see things from different perspectives. I'm just going to start this stitch before I explain it further. I'm looking for my thimble, which is packed away right now. Okay. So when I go to do my stitches, one of the things that I have to do is look at where my needle is emerging. So my needle emerges, there's my thread. Now, in a way, you're drawing lines with thread, or you're coloring or painting with thread. And so in order for me to make the line that I want to make, I have to put my thread into, my needle into the fabric in the position where my thread, when I'm finished, will line up with the intended shape I wanted to make. So you see, my thread has emerged. I've just made a line or a stitch. Now I'm going to make another one, but not only am I having to think about where I emerged and where I'm going, but I also have to think now by angling my needle to the stitch that I'm going to make next time. So my needle is angled. I'm currently, in this moment, pulling the thread to make a line in the direction I intended, but I also had a think about where my next stitch was going to be. So in terms of perspectives and managing multiple perspectives simultaneously, you're thinking about where you've been, you're thinking about where you're going, and you're also being present to the moment of the making. And when you lose that presence of mind, you either make a misstep and land your needle in a place you didn't want it to be, or your thread lines up in an awkward way, not as intended, or it gets tangled, or it breaks. And not only am I changing perspectives in terms of the placement of the needle, but I will often have to shift how I'm holding my fabric to get a better view, to just be able to handle it more with more ease, have the right placement for my hand. Over time it becomes second nature, but it still requires presence. It is a meditative practice, and it teaches us so much about our viewpoints and where we get stuck in life. Are we always looking back and never actually considering what the next step is? Are we always practicing being in the moment, but without reflecting on what's been, and therefore not necessarily taking in the lessons of our experience or historical experience. Are we willing to change our perspectives to respond to what's needed in the moment? To see from a different vantage point and not get stuck in our myopic worldview. There's so much depth to the practice of the handwork. So many different layers to explore.